A poll has found President Trump's approval is sliding as his second term ramps up with new global trade policies. Just more than half, 51% of Americans surveyed in the economic slash YouGov poll, said they disapprove of Trump's job performance, while 43% said they approve, giving him a net approval of negative 8 points. The same poll conducted 2 weeks earlier found opinions of Trump were nearly evenly split. 48% were favorable and 49% were unfavorable. Trump is still more popular than at some points in his first term. He was at negative 8 points at this exact point in his first term, but would drop to negative 21 points later in his first year in office. In the 2 weeks that passed between the latest two polls, Trump unveiled a sweeping plan to levy massive tariffs on products coming to the U.S. from other countries. Many countries have balked the tariff scheme, including China, which has responded with its own massive import tax hikes. Trump this week announced a temporary 90-day pause on most tariffs for countries that have been working with his administration to negotiate deals Trump thinks will be more advantageous to Americans. The latest polls analysis noted in their findings that Trump began his second term more popular than he was at any point during his first term. The Economist slash YouGov poll surveyed 1,741 adult U.S. citizens April 5th to 8th through an opt-in panel. The margin of error is 3 percentage points. So when I did my election reaction, I said I was done with the national American voter. And what I meant by that is, in every presidential election, right, every 4 years, you have these people who we're supposed to believe can be persuaded, right? Like, I'm someone who is probably in most cases going to vote for the left-wing candidate. That doesn't always have to be the Democrat. It could be the Green Party as well. But if you, depending on who the Republican is, they might eventually be able to get my vote, and depending on what their positions are and if they're different from the current filth of their party. But you look at a lot of people who are supposed to be independents, are supposed to be, kind of like in the middle. They could go either way, and I took issue with them, right, in that last election cycle, because Trump was not what he was in 2016. The unknown, what is he going to do, quality was gone. We saw his first term. We saw the failure to repeal Obamacare and the fact that he tried to take away health care from more people. The attempts to cut Social Security and Medicaid. Um, you know, the I mean, we can go down the list. But as I sat there and thought about it, I said, I know that within this second term of his, this non-consecutive second term, there are going to be people who have buyer's remorse because he's going to get in office and do things that are negatively impacting to either a majority or a sizable portion of Americans. And what have we seen over the last 2 months? Tariffs that are going to increase the prices of things, which ironically enough was one of the main reasons that people voted for him over Harris, because they were sick of Biden's inflationary crap. You've seen this. We'll keep calling him what he is: unelected individual whose only qualification is that he's the richest man on the planet, being able to tell government employees, hey, if you don't respond to this email, you're fired. And a lot of their attempts to supposedly balance the budget or uproot waste and fraud have resulted in massive layoffs, which are triggering a recession, because when people don't have jobs, they don't buy things as often, and thus the economy starts to stagnate. So it's really, and I'm not even doing like an I told you so thing, because I know that people don't listen when I like try to warn them of this stuff, but it kills me that as someone who just talks about the news, I barely make anything off of this. I have no incentive to make Trump look bad, make the Republicans look bad, make the Democrats look good or big or whatever, because I've already castigated them as well. I'm merely someone who is witnessing the voters make what I think was the wrong choice as a majority, right? Because there were 70 million people that voted for Harris, and now reaping the rewards of their choice, which is mass layoffs, a likely increase in prices from these tariffs, and a probable recession within the next year to 3 years. And it's like, it's cool that, people are turning on him and getting like sicker and sicker of him, but too little too late. And especially now that, he's got his second term and he feels like, well, I don't have to run for anything ever again. I can just do whatever I want. To hell with what people think. He sees himself the same way that the Supreme Court justices do, where there's no election coming up, right? They have a lifetime appointment. He doesn't, but you get the idea that there is a feeling of invincibility that he has with what he's trying to do. And it's crazy to think about how, the Democrats sat around and talked about what was Harris's line? Don't elect someone with no guardrails. But really, what they should have done was talk about how in his first term he wasn't really that well with negotiating with Congress. Right, a lot of the reason Republicans even went along with his crap was because of how conservative it was, and you see that now where his main thing is to just keep doling out all these executive orders, right? And they're effective to a degree, right? Some of this stuff is getting blocked by the courts, but it's really just a mishmash of a guy who I don't think should have had, not only had a second term or a first, let alone a first one, getting the approval of the voters, right? They installed him, and now turning on a lot of them, right, who worked in federal positions after they can no longer do anything about it besides protest online or whatever. It's a sad state of affairs because a lot of people, like I said, who supported this guy, a lot of non-wealthy people, a lot of regular individuals, lower middle class, poor people, they thought by voting for this prick they were going to get some kind of change. And it's like the only changes they're getting are things that I would argue make them worse off. I don't try to pretend Harris was some great candidate, but you were not going to see unelected billionaire going and sending people emails saying you're fired. You weren't going to see weird trade wars where they say we're going to put tariffs on you, then they back off, then they say it's a victory. Just this stupid stuff wouldn't be happening if the vote had swung for the other party. That's just the reality of the situation. Of course, we can still criticize the Democrats for not being as effective in their messaging as I think they should have been, but my point still stands that it's hard to look at what's going on now and the voters, many of whom voted for Trump, right, and are now getting a result they don't like, and go, well, I mean, what more do you want me to say? Like, people warned you and you didn't listen. And it's amazing how millions of people can just be fooled into thinking that's this grotesquely rich person who already was president before and didn't do anything for them, was now suddenly going to change and be more in favor of them. It's really wild, but like I said, rarely do elections in the U.S. make any type of logical sense.